Public announcements, public announcements from council.
We've got Hidden in the Hills coming up.
Hidden in the Hills is coming up. I'll translate. He didn't turn his microphone on, so.
That's Thursday. Is it Thursday and Friday? This starts on Friday, so it'll be all weekend, and then the following weekend.
Okay, call the public.
I have none.
Okay, thank you.
Although for the record, Daisy Mountain did say they do not accept retirement.
Town manager report.
I have no reports tonight, Mayor.
Meeting adjourned. We're out of here. On the action items, we have a consent agenda, council approval of fourth quarter fiscal year 2025 budget transfers, council approval of first quarter fiscal year 2026 budget transfers, council discussion and possible approval of a non-disclosure agreement with EPCOR NR Holdings Incorporated to allow staff to evaluate the common infrastructure project required to transport Harquahala Valley groundwater to the Central Arizona Project Canal. Approval of the October 7th, 2025 regular town council meeting minutes. Approval of October 15th, 2025 regular town council meeting minutes. And approval of the October 21, 2025 regular town council meeting minutes. Does anyone have anything on there that should be pulled from the consent agenda? You may want to make a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Dusty, are you online?
I am. I vote aye.
Okay, if we forget you're there, just jump in whenever you feel a need. We'll interrupt to accommodate you since you're remote.
Yeah, I apologize. I caught something either Sunday or more Monday, and I'd prefer not to get anybody else sick.
Thank you.
General agenda items, council discussion, possible approval of second reading of ordinance number 2025-08, adopting and amending the town of Cave Creek building codes with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
Excuse me, Mayor. If we could just move the agenda in order or out of order so we can have number one of the staff quarterly reports. Chief
Okay.
Tobin has a board meeting of his own board tonight.
Okay.
So we'd like to let them go first so that he can get to his meeting in time, so he doesn't get in trouble with
Okay,
his
we'll do
board.
that. Presentation of the fire EMS quarterly report.
And this will be our, this will be Mr. Ford's last one. So.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be here for the first quarter quarterly report. And as mentioned by the town manager, this will be my last one. I'm going to officially retire December 1st from Cave Creek. It's been 4 years. I mean, I can't believe we stayed out here 4 years, but I just would quickly like to say thank you for all the support I've gotten from you and from Daisy Mountain, from the residents, for everything that we've done. And it's been a labor of love. I'm real pleased with everything we've accomplished and everything we managed to get done. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and we can we'll go through the report here real quick and then go from there, if that's okay.
Sure.
The quarterly report, again, it's the first quarter, so there's not an awful lot that's changed from the last time. Again, we put it up where you see by each month how many calls we had, and it breaks down by the types of calls that we have. EMS is obviously the first type of or major call we get. I did put up a couple of pie charts. Everybody seemed to like those. The one on the left is the calls for the month, and the one on the right is the calls from last year. Is how it breaks down into total different calls. We had a few more service calls and a couple extra fires this last month, which skews the report just a little bit. But again, the one for the year is the one that's more accurate. It's about 75 to 80% of our calls are medical calls, which we've talked about in the past. Major quarterly items. Again, the July 4th holiday. is always very interesting for us, or can be very interesting for us with the fireworks and the legislature allowing people to use fireworks. But I think we had a fairly quiet 4th of July this year. And I want to mention, I believe a lot of that goes out to the outreach that we've done to the community, putting the signs up, talking about the Dragon of Change, talking about fireworks. And we do that quite a bit. And with Bo and everybody helping get the word out, I think that makes a difference. We still had incidents, but we didn't have as many major incidents that we've had in the past. We're still working with the opioid grant folks, and we've done some terrific stuff with the opioid grant folks, helping with the Caring Corps and with the school district to get that word out. Again, that's outreach and public education. We did complete another Firewise community, so we now have 5 Firewise communities, certified Firewise communities in the town, which is way more than I thought we'd get. I thought we would top out at 2 or 3, to tell you the truth, but we now have 5. Rancho Madeira has done it, and all of those are recertified for the next 5 years. And then again, I will still be working with the Arizona Fire Chiefs Association and helping them provide education for the chiefs from around the state. These are our major incidents, if you want to call them our biggest risks that we had this past quarter. And I can't turn my page. And again, there's a couple on there that are spur cross trail rescues. We had several of those, some Maricopa County Park. We had some major EMS incidents, and we did help quite a bit with the auto aid responses. I track those every month for you, so it's on the report. We did help with a structure fire with Daisy Mountain. We did help with some wildland fires with Scottsdale and some wildland fires with Phoenix. So again, the system that you're in now, the automatic aid system here in the valley and for the north part of the valley, works extremely well. We will help there, but we typically will leave about 2 to 3 times a month. Our crews will help outside, but getting assistance on our major incidents inside, we get a lot more resources than we send. And that's no small part to Chief.
Hey,
Phil.
Jim. How
Yes.
many rescues did we have on Black Mountain? How many incidents?
For the time frame for last year,
Yeah, or I know there was one about a month ago as well, heat related, I thought.
yeah, I went back and I looked at all the incidents for the rescues and stuff, and for 24-25, we had 5 incidents on Black Mountain, 7 on Spur Cross, 6 on the Cave Creek Regional Park. So we had 18 for the entire our fiscal year last year.
Okay.
So, and then I tried to look at the cause, and the reasons are sometimes difficult to attain. Most of them turn into medical incidents, whether it's a hurt ankle or a heat related or a heart attack, that type of stuff. But I often can't get into the specific type of medical call because of HIPAA and things like that. So I can just let you know how many we had and where we had them.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I'd like Chief Tobin to talk about the new facilities and the new people that we got coming on board to help protect the west side.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim and Mayor and Council. Jim has a couple of photos here. Some of you have seen the progress of Fire Station 144, 2402 East Cloud. Happy to report to you that fire station is ahead of schedule and under budget. So everything that we have in place right now with the staffing of that station should come to fruition with an opening of going in service on January 12th, 2026. So the recruits that you see in the top middle picture there, they will graduate on January 9th. They have the weekend off and they go to work on Monday when the fire station opens. So there's a lot of excitement associated with that. We have a grand opening of that fire station on the 10th of January at 10 o'clock in the morning. You will all, either you already have or will get an invitation to that. We would love for you to join us. It's a community event, so the station isn't in service yet. So we're going to give tours, and there's going to be jumpy castles and all kinds of stuff for the kids in the community to come out and see their new fire station. So we would encourage any of you that would like to attend to please do so. We'd love to have you there. There's a lot of energy associated in our department with this fire station. We've been talking about it, or they have, long before I was their fire chief. So there's we're all really looking forward to it and our continued partnership with the town with these recruits. So you see some of the photos of the training that they're going through. Takes about 16 weeks to put a firefighter through training nowadays. So you're in the middle of what we're doing, and that all happens pretty seamlessly in January. So we look forward to that. I'm going to jump back a little bit to some of I know Grady will have some things to say about Jim, but my whole staff is here today. My executive staff is here in attendance for this meeting. Chief Maxwell left a few minutes ago because he's my proxy until I can get to the meeting to get our board meeting started. We have a very light agenda tonight. But I have, so Chief Maxwell is my finance and human resource manager. Chief Wilson is here. Oh, Dave is still here. I'm sorry, Dave Maxwell is still here. He hasn't left yet. So Chief Wilson is here. He's my operations chief. Chief Jarrett is here, who's my emergency medical services and fire prevention, community risk reduction assistant chief. Alan Zangle is my logistics support services assistant chief. Barrett Littell is a deputy chief working in our HR section right now and with some of our other activities. And Chief Hamilton works with Chief Wilson in operations. So in addition to that, I have Captain Eugene Lindsay is here. So we're all here tonight because we just want to say how thankful we are for the work that we've been able to do with Jim over these last 4 years, when it started with Jim and Carrie and Mayor Bunch, and now with the new council and Grady, seamlessly been putting this partnership together over the last 4 years, which I know has a huge commitment from the town. Jim has been nothing but a great partner for us to deal with on a day-to-day basis, carrying on the things that are important to you and important to Grady and Carrie before him that we've been able to work on together. So we're all here to say thanks to Jim for being just a great partner for us. We knew him before he came here, but we certainly have enjoyed working with him the entire time that he's been here, and we will miss him. So thank you.
Well, if I can just make a couple more comments. I get a lot of credit for a lot of stuff, and I didn't do this by myself. As you've seen, I've had help with Daisy Mountain. I've had help with the town folks, the town staff, and most of all, the support that I've gotten from mayor and council for the whole time I've been here. I gave you ideas and I came up with some crazy stuff and we talked through it all, but you're the ones that made the final decisions and supported all this. And this couldn't have happened without the support of our elected officials, of all of you. So that made it easier for me, but I appreciate that support, because if you don't have it, as we've probably both have experienced at different communities at times, it makes it that much more difficult, but that has not been the case here. We just appreciate your support that you had, and again, support from all the town staff as I've come up with crazy ideas here and there. So thank you.
Jim, it's not quite over yet. So he asked me to swear that he'd go under the radar and not have any recognition or anything, and that's just not going to work. So so I just have a few words, and a lot of this encapsulates Jim's career. He obviously had an illustrious career in different places before he came here. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the statement. Tonight, we are recognizing Jim for his outstanding service to Cave Creek before he officially retires on December 1st. Jim began his fire service career after joining Rural Metro Department in 1975 at the ripe age of 19. So you guys can kind of do the math and figure it out what his age is.
And I'm still alive.
Over the next 47 years, Jim rose through the ranks to serve as ultimately the deputy fire chief of Scottsdale Fire, helping guide that department from 3 stations through their big growth to 16. Along the way, he became one of the most respected experts in fire prevention and safety. Jim successfully led Scottsdale Fire Sprinkler Ordinance, which resulted in saving both property and lives and serving as a model to other communities, not only here in the Valley, but elsewhere in the country. His efforts have been recognized internationally with fire department leaders across North America, Europe, and beyond. you ever get a chance to talk to Jim, he has fascinating stories of having gone to Europe, being invited as a guest to kind of talk about some of his success stories that he experienced in Arizona. Jim's achievements have earned him some of the highest honors in his profession. And what's really nice is this all happened while he was still living. A lot of people, this happens when we die and they decide, oh, we should do something to recognize. But he has these three significant things that I just can't get over, that he's still living and is able to enjoy these pleasures. One is, as I think all of us know, he was inducted into the Arizona Fire Service Hall of Fame. So he's a Hall of Flamer. Is that what they call that?
At the Hall of Fame.
He's also a recipient of the James M. Shannon Advocacy Medal from the National Fire Protection Association. He received that in 2022. And then he's also been recognized by the Scottsdale History Hall of Fame. That occurred in 2023. In 2021, as the council knows, the town of Cave Creek tapped him to help us determine what direction to go on fire service and emergency medical. And thanks to his efforts and the council ultimately making a decision, Cave Creek now stands stronger and safer, with Daisy Mountain providing top-notch emergency fire and medical services to our residents. The town council, staff, residents all thank Jim for his extraordinary service and lasting contributions to Cave Creek. If I can have Mayor Morris come down. Mayor Morris is going to say a few words, and then he's going to be presenting a plaque on behalf of the town to Jim. So Jim, if you can stand up, please. I know you said you had a few words.
Yeah, very few. I remember when we decided that we weren't cutting it with our fire protection, that Carrie, the town manager at the time, came in and said, well, Scottsdale has this fella who knows everything about fire. And so we go through all this process, and then afterwards someone asked about, oh, what's really difficult putting in a fire department from scratch? It was easy. We just gave it to Jim and said, do it. The financing, that was hard, but the fire implementing was seamless. It's been seamless ever since. And Jim, your contributions are going to last far beyond all the people in this room. I mean, our town is going to be safer for decades and maybe hundreds of years into the future with what you've done. So, and you're so easy to work with. You are just an absolute dream to work with. It's been just wonderful to have you a part of Cave Creek. I don't know what we're going to do without you, but
You'll do fine.
yeah, it would be better if you were here. So, would you introduce your wife for us and have her step up too? Oh, I think she's here. Yeah.
Brett, hiding over by Teresa is my wife Cheryl. And we,
Want to step up? We'd like to choose.
and we've been married, what do I want to say now, 47 years?
Oh, I got it right.
I didn't practice that.
Yeah, that would have been dangerous there. I do want to get between you.
And there might be somebody here that would not agree with you that I was easy to work with this whole time. So. But we're not gonna ask her.
So it says, with
To stay
great,
married that long.
with great appreciation and best wishes on your retirement, the town of Cave Creek recognizes Jim Ford, Director of Community Risk Management, for his leadership and assistance in bringing professional fire and emergency medical services to the town of Cave Creek, and for his retirement after 50+ years of providing stellar municipal fire safety services. Yeah.
Well, the last thing I'll say is this wasn't under the radar grading. And I think that concludes my report. Thank you, unless you have any other questions. I don't know.
What are you gonna do?
A lot of stuff. I'm still gonna be the executive director for the Arizona Fire Chiefs, which is outreach and training for the new chiefs in the state. I'm still gonna do that, the conferences and that we do. And I still get asked every once in a while to present like at the national conferences. And so I've got one proposal in right now for the next year's conference in Las Vegas. Surprise, Las Vegas. And
Are you gonna be at all the Steeler games?
I do have season tickets at Harold's. I bought my season tickets at the bar at Harold's, for those of you who know how that works. So I plan on being there. So you won't get rid of me. I'll be in Cave Creek. I still have family up here, obviously, and I just appreciate every opportunities you've given me and everything that's happened in the town. So thank you so much for all that.
And thank you for everything, Jim.
Yeah, you, Jim.
Okay, council discussion, possible approval, a second reading of ordinance number 2025-08, adopting and amending the Town of Cave Creek building codes with an effective date of January 1st, 2026. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me back. I would also like to echo thanks to Jim Ford as your fire official. He has been an immense help and put me on a path to success, I believe. So that was a really good hire for the town. Thank you. We have made 3 changes to the ordinance, which you have already reviewed the draft. The first change you will find on page 11. After discussion with council, our administration, and the Builders Association for Central Arizona, we decided to roll it back to the 2018 for the Energy Code. So that is section 5 under, bullet point 5 under section 2. We just changed the language from adopting the 21 or staying on the 21 and rolling it back to the 18. Through discussions, I was asked to research what codes other agencies are on, and I could go through that with you. Maricopa County is currently on the 12. Scottsdale is on the 21. Carefree is on the 18. Phoenix is on the 18 currently, but there is some discussion of going to the 24. Peoria is on the 18, Goodyear 18, Tempe 18, Yavapai County 12, Prescott 12, Sedona 18, Coconino County 18. So we wouldn't be an oddball for sure. The Builders Association pointed out something to me that I had overlooked, and that is under our adoption of the 2024 IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code, they do have a residential section in there that would conflict if you choose to adopt the 2018. It refers back to the 2024 IECC for the Energy Code. So we have stricken that from our adoption and rolled it back to the 18 as well, just so there's no conflict, which could arise in some legal challenges. The third change, again, this was an oversight, and I added this in because I believe it really needs to be here. When we terminated our contract with Rural Metro, we didn't have any language in our ordinance allowing us to do annual fire inspections of commercial occupancies. So in the fire section, which is section 10 on page 22, I inserted bullet point number 2, which says chapter R1 through R5. Oh, excuse me, I'm on the wrong page now. Oh, shoot, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, so page 18, under section 6, bullet point number 4, it states annual fire and life safety inspections. The fire code official shall cause all occupancies in buildings except 1 and 2 family dwellings to be inspected at least once a year for compliance with the provisions of this code and other applicable fire and life safety regulations. The frequency of inspections may be increased based on occupancy hazard classification or at the discretion of the fire official. And the reason that this has been inserted into the ordinance is all fire standards and codes refer back to your local jurisdiction's ordinance. So that has been written in here for your approval. I don't have anything else. Are there any questions?
Questions? Dusty, questions?
No, I'm good with it as the changes have been made.
Okay.
Yeah, note the letter that we have on our desk, that the Home Builders Association had concerns about the first reading, and they now have supported this as a result of some negotiations with staff and minor changes.
Couple weeks ago, we did have a meeting with the Builders Association. They came prepared to challenge what we were wishing to adopt at the time. We had a good discussion, and it was determined that the 2018 would satisfy both parties.
Very good. Any public comment?
I have none.
Okay, so we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2025-08, adopting and amending the Town of Cave Creek building codes with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
Second, Tom McGuire had the second. Cynthia?
Yeah, it's, I appreciate seeing the work of staff coming together on some of those issues of question from our last meeting, and it looks like a good step forward. Thank you.
Tom,
I echo that.
other comments from
No, it's good.
council? Okay, so with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Adam. Next on the agenda is council discussion, public hearing, second reading and possible approval of ordinance number 2025-16, amending the town tax code to increase the transaction privilege tax rate on selected tax classifications and designating an effective date of February 1, 2026. Carrie?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. So tonight we will be having the public hearing and then the second reading of the ordinance related to the changes in our TPT rates. So we have here where our current rates are. Construction, we're at 5%, bed tax is at 4%, and all of our other categories are at 3%. I have the ranges here for you on what other municipalities have. Construction ranging anywhere from 1.5 to 5.5, bed tax anywhere from 0 to 7%. And as far as like the retail of the others, anywhere from 1.5 to 5%. And the last column there is the number of the municipalities that are greater than our rate. So the construction is really only one municipality higher, bed tax 18 higher, and the others 24 higher. So with the statute section 9-500.06, it talks about the discriminatory tax. And essentially discriminatory refers to any tax rates that are higher than what is imposed on other businesses within a category. So typically we use retail as that other businesses because there's so many different types of businesses that are in that retail section. For the hospitality categories, they do have a maximum on how much the increase can be in any 1 year. And so you look at what the current CPI is compared to the average of the last 5 years. And so the cap would be 11%, and we're not proposing anything anywhere near 11%, changing what the rates are. So the hospitality industry businesses that are included, so includes restaurant, bar, liquor store, grocery store, convenience store, in addition to the transient lodging categories, which these are not included. We're just talking about transient lodging. So in this statute, it does say that we are allowed to have discriminatory, meaning a rate different that exceeds what the rate is for the other businesses, up to 2%, before we have to start restricting how that is spent. So if we wanted to have something even higher, that restriction would require that it go towards the promotion of tourism, and they have some definitions here. So the statutes, it's a little odd sometimes that they'll say something, but then they'll define it and it'll mean a whole lot more than what the phrase says. So when we say promotion of tourism, you don't necessarily think of some of these things that are on the list. But it is promoting tourism, but it's also to help manage and manage the impacts and maintaining facilities and things like that related to tourism. Within the model city tax code, so the municipalities follow the model city tax code. This was something that's actually even in the statute saying that we follow the model city tax code. So they have definitions in there. So for a hotel, they say, well, we say hotel, and I think it's probably because it was maybe antiquated language or something. I don't know, but we're going to define it as all these things. So the term hotel does not mean what you think hotel means. It really means transient lodging. They talk about inns and tourist homes and houses and apartments and trailers and any other lodging place offering lodging for compensation. It does exclude foster homes, rest homes, shelter care homes, nursing homes, primary healthcare facilities are not part of this. The Model City Tax Code defines transient as any person who at their own expense or the expense of someone else paying on their behalf, obtaining lodging or the use of lodging for less than 30 consecutive days. Anything 30 days or more ends up becoming a long-term rental, and we know that the legislature took away our ability to have a residential rental tax last year. So they also define lodging, what they mean by lodging or lodging space. And so in that, so it's not just hotels, it's any other provider of room, trailer spaces, or other residential dwelling spaces, and furnishings of services and accommodations accompanying the use. The said dwelling space, including storage or parking space. So all of that's included in all of this. So even like an RV park falls under the definition for transient occupancy. So we're looking at a 2% increase in what is referred to as the hotel sales tax under that definition of basically all transient occupancy. And then the 1% increase in the bed tax, which is the same transient occupancy, same definition. It's just two different sections within the tax code. So our hotel sales tax currently at the 3%, we can go to 5% and not have the restrictions, so increasing it 2%. We're already at 4% for the bed tax, so we can increase it 1% to the 5% and be within the unrestricted portion. So each 1% increase in those categories generates about $57,000, and then the total 3% increase that we're looking at is approximately $171,000, and that's just based off of looking at what our current activity is and based off of an assumption of the same activity, how much would be generated. Have some scenarios here. So on this one, it's the same one we looked at last time with the lodging scenario, that if we had any sort of occupancy, whether it be a hotel, motel, anything along those lines, 100 rooms. I've used in this scenario across the country, average occupancy tends to be around 69%. So I use that number. I picked a fairly modest rate on what the hotel room rate would be at 150,000. So with hotel sales tax at 5%, that would generate 159,000. The bed tax at 5%, 189,000. So the total TPT revenue generated in a scenario like this would be about 378,000. As far as the impact on the visitor side, so I've got a couple different examples, again, with a modest room rate and with a higher room rate. So in example A, room rate of 150 a night. So currently the hotel sales tax at 3%, they would be paying $4.50. At 5%, it would go to $7.50. The bed tax rate at 4%, they're paying $6, and at 5%, it would go to the $7.50. So the total nightly rate would go from $160.50 to $165. That's an increase of $4.50 a night, or the 3% that we're asking for the increase. On a higher priced property, so at $400 a night, Currently, they're paying $12 and the hotel sales tax would go to 20. The bed tax would go from 16 to 20. So the total nightly bill would go from 428 to 440, or an increase of $12, which again is a 3% increase to that customer, which is the 3% we're asking for. Part of what we had talked about of some of the things that we can potentially use the money for. So tourism promotion is something that we're doing some of, but not really putting a lot of money or effort in that arena. The Arizona Office of Tourism has what they refer to as the DMO designation, or Destination Marketing Organization, and able to participate in their programs. And some of their programs, they give us money. The officially designated DMO for each municipality is responsible for tourism promotion and marketing of a destination year round. So that is one of the distinctions that they make. And you must have a dedicated tourism marketing budget. There is a Prop 302 program here in Maricopa County that AOT administers on behalf of the DMOs for a marketing grant program. You have to have had the DMO designation. The DMO has to have been in existence at least a year prior to their grant funding year. And you have to have a marketing budget of at least $123,000 for what the grant program is for fiscal year 26. And it's been $123,000 for a few years, so maybe it'll stay at that at some point. I'm sure they're going to increase it. For our fiscal year 26 Tourism Bureau marketing budget, it's $25,000. So we're a bit shy of that number to participate in that grant program. Another thing to look at as far as the additional income, there's a lot of demands on the general fund resources. There are ongoing inflationary factors that we deal with. There are some very significant program costs. So in the fiscal year 26 budget, the ongoing portion for the fire department, with adding the second station, the 50% of the second station, is $4.7 million. The streets fund support in the fiscal year 26 budget is $2.4 million. There's support of the utility funds. So we have budgeted subsidy to wastewater at $2.9 million, Cave Creek Water at $1.2 million, and the cash loan estimated about $500,000 for Desert Hills Water. So we have a lot of demands on the general fund. So this is just a small way that we can help contribute to some of the gap in the needs. In looking at the rates, so those with bed tax rates at 5% or greater, this is a list. It was a long list, so I split it into two separate columns. There's several that are at 5%. Bisbee, Gilbert's at 5%, Glendale, Mesa, Scottsdale, Tempe. On the right-hand side, you've got Williams at 5.5. You got Marana at 6, Oro Valley at 6, and the top end there is Colorado City at 7%. So they're the top in the state. On the hotel sales tax side, those that are at 5% or greater, so Page is at 5%, Quartzsite and Williams at 5.5, Tucson is at 6, and Colorado City is at 7. So we have scheduled for tonight, public hearing and second reading of the ordinance if council so chooses. This puts us on the timeline of having an effective date for this tax as February 1st. Typically, the ordinances have 30 days before they're effective, but the Department of Revenue requires 60 days notice in order to implement the change. So that's why the extended timeline of the effective date. So this would help us furthering towards our goal of exploring additional revenue sources, new and diverse options, and helping to adapt to the economic conditions. Are there any questions that anyone has?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Sherry, is there a circumstance or a category where the hotel sales tax would be charged but not the bed tax, or vice versa? Or are they uniformly applied together for everyone that meets that definition?
They're applied together for everyone that meets the definition, if they're paying correctly.
Yeah. And another question on kind of comparing to other jurisdictions, again, Cave Creek does not have property tax. Many of those other jurisdictions have property tax that would apply to dwellings that are used as short-term or the short-term rentals and or hotel rooms. So again, the statistics to me are a little bit apples and oranges to be able to tell exactly what the impact is on the property owner. If they're paying some property tax along with what might be a lower hotel or room tax, bed tax.
Other questions from council? Okay, at this point, I will open the public hearing and invite a public comment.
I have none.
I have none. Okay, the public hearing is hereby closed and we are ready for a motion.
I'll do it.
Thank you, Tom.
I move the second reading and possible approval of ordinance number 2025-16, amending the town code and increasing the transaction privilege tax rate on selected tax classifications and designating an effective date of February 1st, 2026.
Second.
Okay, you had it, Tom, you're on.
It's a tourist town, so, you know, we're largely dependent. You pointed out that we don't have a town property tax, and that's a benefit to those that have the short-term rentals. So I think this is a very good idea. It's not a huge increase.
I think one thing to consider is we don't know in the upcoming sessions what other legislative restrictions might be applied to a town's ability to tax certain categories. You know, we lost the long-term rental residential tax revenue, and it is certainly possible that we could lose other tax revenues depending on which way the wind blows in the legislature. So I think it's a reasonable increase. It makes us maybe a little less competitive with immediate areas, but I think we'll see other prices, market prices, kind of support the properties that attract attention. And I don't think it will be detrimental to the community as a whole. I think we have some residents who are concerned that the lodging and short-term rentals bring more short-term residents, not long-term rentals and more permanent residents. And while I don't think the short-term rentals are necessarily a growth industry for Cave Creek, we certainly wouldn't want to see development along the lines that we've seen in Sedona and Flagstaff and other areas where it does become a neighborhood problem. So I think a bump up in the tax revenues are appropriate and certainly can be afforded.
Other comments? Okay, seeing none and the motion, so we will vote. Dusty, do you have a comment?
No, I don't. Thank you, though.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. We're on to the next item, which is council discussion, possible direction regarding sale and execution and delivery of excise tax revenue obligations for utility capital improvement projects.
Okay. So this is a follow-up on previous discussions that we have had. And so I wanted to kind of give a little bit of background and talk about debt financing. So one of the things that benefits us of debt financing some of the projects is it spreads those costs over the life of the assets. So the ratepayers who are benefiting from those assets are the ones who are paying for them instead of having current customers pay for future usage. And it also reduces spikes in rate increases when you have large cash demands. It spreads those costs out so that it's the cash flows are better managed. And it will also help minimize the need for general fund subsidies and cash loans. I do want to point out that there is part of the IRS rules related to tax exempt debt that there must be a reasonable expectation that we're spending the proceeds within 3 years. If we do not spend it within 3 years, we can end up in some trouble, and there's remedies and things that can be done, but it is important that we spend it within that 3-year time frame. So in our looking at the projects we looked at for the next 2 years, what is in the CIP and some of the adjustments. So we had asked Sean to review the CIP numbers, I don't know, 5, 6 different times. And so this was based off of the latest version that he had done to evaluate what would be projects that could potentially be debt financed. So this is the list for 26 and 27 for wastewater. So in 26, there's about 450,000 worth. In 27, 625. So that's a total of a little over $1 million. We did put not to exceed requests on the debt financing, partly to cover some of the cost of issuance, but just in case there's any change in what the amounts are. For Cave Creek Water, so a little bit longer list here for fiscal year 26. We were looking at projects of about 2.8 million. The big one there that you see would be the well rehab program. And in 27, not quite 1.5 million. So over the 2 years, that's about 4.3 million. And so we put not to exceed 4.5 million there. And so then on Desert Hills, there was 425,000 of projects to be debt financed in fiscal year 26 and 880,000 in 27. So that's about 1.3 million in total. And we put not to exceed of 1.5 million. So those not to exceed amounts add up to 7,250,000. If for some reason we have difficulty spending those because something happens and projects get deferred, delayed for whatever reason. And so I always want that safety net of, are we going to get this spent within the 3 years? So looking at fiscal year 28, there's about $7 million of projects there that would be debt financed. So we do have some room in all of that. So at the October 7th meeting was when we had presented to council and council approved the resolution 2025-24 for direct placement excise tax obligations. We had also looked at applications for WIFA loans at that same time and said that we wanted to go down both tracks and to evaluate and see what we felt like was going to be the best option. So what was approved in the resolution for the direct placement was not to exceed the 7,250,000. And what that did was being able to get the best rate when the banks are bidding to look at something that's bigger instead of a smaller issuance. So combining all of those together, and we looked at not to exceed a 20-year term and not to exceed a 5% bond yield. And then this approval of the resolution started the 30-day clock for us. The 30-day resolutions need 30 days before they're effective unless there's an emergency clause. And municipalities have traditionally used the emergency clause in order to be able to lock in on a rate. And there's been some questions about whether or not that is a valid use of the emergency clause. So municipalities have decided, okay, well, we'll go this other route in order to be able to meet the 30 days. So we started that clock. If there's something here tonight where you say, I don't really like this, I want to change something, it has the potential of starting the 30-day clock over again. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But we wanted to have a start on it because if you are happy with the terms, then we can move forward quickly. So we felt like that the best option is going with the direct placement instead of the WIFA loans. Webster Bank is the one who provided the best terms that we had. So we are recommending this as our option A. So total issuance that they bid was 7,245,000 with a 15-year term, just under 4% on the interest rate. And as in comparison, so we felt like this was a really good rate because the next lowest bid with a 15-year term that did have call options was 4.46. So we're getting pretty good with Webster Bank. They are giving us call options. So between July 1, 2030 and June 30, 2032, we could do a call at 101%. after that, so 7/1/2032 and thereafter, then it would be at just 100%. They also had very low bank closing fees, not to exceed 5,000. This is what we're looking at as far as the debt service. So the way that we structured this was to pay the wastewater and the Desert Hills project sooner. They had smaller dollar amounts, but to extend the Cave Creek water amounts over time. We put a lot of flexibility in the definition. So if we said, oh, this wastewater project is going to get delayed and we don't have a wastewater project that's going to move forward, it could be a Cave Creek water project or a Desert Hills project moves forward. We built a lot of flexibility in this. So this is based off of those lists of the projects as they are at this point in time. But as we know, CIP projects change regularly. So we can reassign these without any issue with the bank. It would just be internal accounting. So it would just be essentially interest payments in 26 of 160,000 and then a couple years of small amounts to help us get the current debt service paid off. And then for a few years, it'd be a total of around 930, 35, 40, and then drop down to the 480 range, 490. I have on the right-hand side there where we're at with our current debt service. So wastewater would have its debt paid, the current debt paid off July 1, 2029. The annual payment there is 1.4 million. The Cave Creek water, not including the Phoenix Interconnect, would have the final payment in 2030, and that annual payment is 2 million. The Phoenix Interconnect, of course, goes out a lot longer, but that's about 640,000 for the annual payment there. Desert Hills would have the final payment on their current debt in 2028, and that annual payment is 852,000. So we looked at what the pledged revenue coverage is. So these are excise tax obligations that we would be pledging excise tax revenues. So currently we're at not quite 6.5 times. So depending upon the different debt covenants, sometimes it's 1.5 times that they want to see. Sometimes it's 2 times. We're well above that at the 6.45. With the new debt, it would put us at about 6.12 times. So a slight decrease in our coverage, times coverage, but not much. Some of the reasons why we are recommending going this route instead of the WIFA loans. So cost and staff time that goes into this. So WIFA does offer lower interest rates, but there are federal compliance requirements that get involved with Davis-Bacon, which is paying prevailing wages, and Buy American rules with iron and steel and all of that. And so not only does it add to the cost of the project, but it also requires additional staff time with all the administering of that. The calculation that our municipal advisor folks, which they are online if you have any questions for them, plus our bond counsel is here as well if you have questions for him. So the break-even point that they calculated based off of what the Webster Bank has proposed compared to WIFA loans, that the difference in the cost of the project would be about 8 to 10%. So if it would cost 8 to 10% more with a WIFA loan because of the requirements, that's break even with the slightly higher rate that we would be paying with Webster Bank. So pretty modest difference there. We feel like that the extra costs that would be incurred following the federal compliance requirements would be close enough to that 8 to 10% or even greater than what that break even would be. Another point is the closing timeline. So with the bids that we had received, we put that we would be closing on December 10th. So we would receive the money a lot faster than what we would with WIFA, which would be approximately 6 months. We are locked in with the rate with Webster Bank, and it just so happened that when they turned in their proposal and locked in that rate, the very next day rates went up. So we were very lucky with the rate that we got. We don't know what rates are going to be in 6 months. So this was a comparison on the break-even point of the 8 to 10% based off of what we estimated WIFA rates would be at that point in time. 6 months from now, we don't know what WIFA rates will be. The other thing is the flexibility of the project descriptions and being able to move things around as needed. So we have it written so that there's the greatest flexibility with the direct placement obligations, whereas WIFA tends to want more specific information. And so we can try as best we can to get them to be flexible on it, but they usually don't budge on that. This is what we included in the description. So it was basically a laundry list of all the things that were utility related. Improvements to treatment processes, storage reservoirs, improving or replacing outdated failing meters, rating systems, the water distribution, groundwater wells rehab, the improvements, replacements of manholes, wastewater collection system, wastewater treatment. So a lot there that we can use this money for. Also on October 7th, council approved the resolution 2025-20, which allows for reimbursement of expenditures that have already occurred before the closing of the debt financing. So we do have the ability to go back and reimburse ourselves on any costs. So other than anything that was within that, it would rely on general fund cash until we get the debt proceeds. So this again goes towards the strategic plan, fiscal sustainability goal number 6, related to enhancing, protecting existing revenue sources and adapting to changing economic conditions. It also goes towards the strategic plan priority for infrastructure, goal number 3, about investment in the infrastructure and facilities to improve quality of life, the community, affordability, and sustainability. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. One question, Sherry, on call options that were described for excise tax obligations, how's that different than like stock investor call options? I'm not sure how it operates with the excise tax.
So as the issuer of the debt, so if we said we want to basically retire this debt, when it's at 100%, then you're paying 100% of, so say the principal was $1 million, then you would be paying 101% of that. And at the 100%, you're just paying the $1 million.
Other questions for council? Public comment?
I have none.
Okay, so we're ready for a motion. I'll make it. Move to direct staff to proceed with sale and execution and delivery of excise tax revenue obligations for utility capital improvement projects as recommended.
Second. Yeah, it's yours.
Okay, well, I think the best argument for this is it spreads it out to people who are actually using it. And in the next, until 2030, when all these original bonds are paid off, we need to smooth out this peak in cash flow that we've got going on right now. So this is a smart thing to do.
Yes, it's a good detail for the future plan. Logical.
Okay. Other,
I support this, but I'm hoping it's kind of like when you put your house up for sale and you have a property inspection. And they come in and they say, you've got to do this, this, and this to legally make the sale. I see this as investments of existing infrastructure to make our utilities an attractive option for privatization in 2026. Just wanted to keep reminding folks of the opportunity. We still don't have a response yet on that. Could be good. Thank you.
other comments? Okay, so with that, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is the council discussion and possible approval of an amended and restated development agreement between the town of Cave Creek and CSTE Holdings LLC for the Cahaba Springs development, and authorize the mayor and staff to execute the necessary documents. I see Michelle's online. Hello again, Michelle.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And before I start, I just want to pass along that actually, I'm not, while I'm sitting here tonight presenting this, I'm not the only one who's been involved from the town. Michelle is obviously online. She's helped us very much. Bill has helped us very much. But from a staff point, Hal's been very much involved, and so has Luke, to get this across the finish line for the town. So next, here, let's see if I run this. I know we've talked about it before, but this isn't the new, the final amended and restated development agreement. We've moved away from calling it amendments. And because it's pretty much a new document, so we wanted to capture that. So just to remind everybody, Cahaba Springs, a 230 lot development up in the northwest corner of the town. It actually has a history. It goes back to 2005, which was when the first pre-annexation development agreement was put in place on the property. And prior to that, there was actually some water service agreements before the property was annexed into the property into the town for the old private water company to provide water services to them. So it's been through a number of amendments. 2012, there was the first amendment that extended the agreement out to 2025. And then in 2025, we actually have done 2 amendments right now to allow staff to actually work with the developer. So the original developer of the property lost control of it. CTSE picked it up effectively as it went to receivership, and they have bought the property. So what they're trying to do is actually redo the development agreement to get them certainty. We understand they may actually have a developer lined up to buy the property and start development on it. So we looked at it from that lens, what was needed to be done. Some of the infrastructure already has been constructed up to the property, but it's not completed, and what was needed to get done, and then what of the original improvements were not being done. So that's why we're looking at this again. It's an amended and restated development agreement. It's no more amendments, because we try to capture all the old agreements, and the old water service agreements were actually written prior to the town owning the water company. We tried to just eliminate all that and clarify, make it clean for the town itself. So what water service actually was one of the major issues for the property. They did have a certificate of assured water supply from the town to provide waters for the 230 lots, and construction of a 12-inch water line to the property has been completed. That was completed in 2019, just as I was actually joining the town. The last portion of that construction was completed. They did a little bit on the on-site. They considered their phase 1. Our project actually had 5 different final platted areas, and the first platted area actually had the water system was put in place. What was missing is the booster stations to actually connect that. Well, the connection, they're disjointed from the distribution system. They need a booster station to actually move it up the hill to them. So right now we've got the agreement actually is for them, and I brought this forward before, is to actually have 2 off-site booster stations. One would be at the south end of where the 24-inch water line ties to the existing distribution system at 24th Street and Joy Ranch Road. That will then boost it up the hill around the bend, and I think it's on Rockaway at 36th Street alignment, which is actually property that the town owns. It would now be the second booster to get it all the way up to the property. On property, they'd actually do a reservoir and a booster station to feed locally for their development. So that's a change from prior plans. Actually only had 1 inline booster, but it functionally didn't work, and especially from what we know of the system, and especially what we know from our SCADA system and from our master plan. So this actually helps better incorporate this development into the town's future master planning efforts. Because of the uncertainty of the water line at this point forward, because a lot of the first section of the water line, the lower section, was actually constructed in 2008, and the upper section was done in 2017 through 19. There was concern about the integrity of that line. So the developer actually paid to have a consultant come out and a contractor come out and pressure test that line. We call it hydrostatic testing. So they broke it into sections. We worked up and actually pressure tested it to make sure that everything was we didn't have a geyser, as Hal would say, underneath his road. We actually did do that test, and it passed. So we can say it's in good shape. The contractor will have to, or developer will have to retest that line in the future when they disinfect it. So we didn't do this to bring it into the system and make it a live system. We tested it just to get the integrity and get some certainty as they move forward in development, but it tested out well. It helped us because over the years, some of the appurtenances, valves, et cetera, have been buried. So it allowed us to actually go through and basically create a new as-built on that line, which was really nice for the town to have. But there's several things. This isn't just about water, sewer. So when the project stopped last in 2019, there was actually an outstanding punch list on the project. What we've actually put into this agreement, it's actually one of the appendices, is the punch list, and it's been amended. It includes some things that we found when we did the recent water line inspection, things like repairing cracks and microsealing the existing roads up to the property. Because the road has not been in use, it actually is not good for asphalt not to be driven on. So they actually, and there's been some cracking. So we've put that in. There's some things that were pointed out as far as landscaping that was not improved initially, and the access road going up. There's a note about easements on the trails. The town obviously is very eager to make sure we have a unified trail system. So the town, the plats show general locations of easements, and we've worked through it to make sure that that is recorded, that the final easements will be recorded at the time of each phase is put into development. So while the final plats this gives some flexibility, it's not going to change the fact that we have trail connectivity through this property, but it actually helps the developer get some more certainty in it. We talked about when they can actually start model homes, because obviously if a developer is going to go in, and I've heard different numbers of how much the water booster stations will cost, but to give them some certainty, we said that once they actually get substantially complete with water facilities, that's through design, through construction, getting to the point that they're ready to turn over to us, then we'd be able to release permits for them to start going vertical with for homes up there for model homes. We thought that gives them a little bit of a head start on doing that, and there's not as much uncertainty. Per the town's subdivision code, they're supposed to actually have water service to the property. We're giving them a little bit of a reprieve, but not much. Substantial completion to us is effectively everything's done. There might be a little punch list item left, but we can run the system for them. So we thought that was a good thing for us to work with them, and it helps them complete the project. Another thing that actually really protects the town is the fact that we put in place, while we have current utility capacity fees, really the water fees are what apply to the property. We put it in there that there's been discussion of should the town, because of what's happening in our water resource issues, need to start creating a water resource capacity fee, which we don't currently have, to allow us to secure new water resources, that those would apply to the property. So at the time that they go pull the individual permits is when those fees are due. And it's clear in the document that the fees in place at the time are what's paid. So they're not capturing in some development agreements. They'll actually say, we're going to cap the fees, building permit fees, capacity fees, impact fees at a certain time frame, so they can't be increased. In our case, no, it's actually when the town council approves the new fees, that's when they apply to this property. So that gives us some certainty in the future to allow to put those things in place. And the other thing I think is, the project has had such a long history, is that we've put a termination agreement in place, 7 years. So the contractor has 7 years to start and get the improvements constructed. We don't want this to linger on. I know there's property owners in the area. Again, it's construction of the first section of the pipeline and the roadway started in 2008. This has been out there for a long time. So we actually want that certainty that whoever starts this project will complete this project. So it gives us ability to, and Michelle can speak a little bit more to it legally, what we can do. We can extinguish the final, we could potentially look back to extinguishing the final plats and looking back to the state of rescinding the certificate of assured water supply to the property. We understand that the holding company that owns the property has been talking with a master developer who wants to pick it up and complete the project and then sell it to home builders. So we anticipate they actually want to get going, but we wanted to give the town that certainty because it's been out there too long for the town, and we need to get this resolved. So I've talked for a lot here, and I've talked with you about it before, but we're really trying to get, again, this is an amended and restated, because we're not trying to amend the existing agreement. We're trying to do a fresh restart, put a time frame on it, and get this project to completion for the town and for the property owners and the adjacent properties also. So with that, I can answer any questions council may have.
Questions? We've all read this thing and discussed things like this many times. So we had a lot of questions, but they've generally been answered. Okay. Anything else before I call for public? No comment. Public comment?
No comments.
We have no comment. Okay. Then I will make the motion. Move to adopt a resolution 2025-30 approving an amended and restated development agreement between the town of Cave Creek and CSTE Holdings LLC for the Cahava Springs development, and authorize the mayor and staff to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Who had the second? Joe, we'll give it to you. Simultaneous. Okay, so this is a really well-written contract. It cleans up, I think I count about 30 years worth of other things in there. It's been around the block again and again and again, and water problems, as the water equipment problems. And what I really worry about is when we having some people up there makes it less likely that someone is going to come in there and camp out and start a fire. That we were worried about that for a long time. So, you know, it's just time to get this going, and it also will help us acquire water because the water acquisition fees will be included at the time. So I'm thoroughly in favor of this. Joe?
So I'm in favor of it as well. And one of the reasons I'm in favor of it is that it'll provide water for the west side after they figure out how to finance all the necessary things to bring the water into town.
Other comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we are on to the council discussion, possible direction to staff regarding a proposal from Councilman Joe Friedman to improve trail safety. Joe?
Hi, everybody. So you know me, I like dogs better than I like people. And I have a question. I have some questions for you. Is it okay to leave your dog in a hot car when it is 90 degrees outside? Did you know that when it's 90 degrees outside, that asphalt and trail rocks are the equivalent of 150 degrees to a human or dog with no foot protection? Did you know that when the temperature reaches 100 degrees in Scottsdale, that there is an ordinance in place now that dogs are not allowed on their hiking trails citywide? Did you know that Phoenix has an ordinance in place in 2016 that restricted dogs to be on the trails when it went over 100 degrees? Did you know now Phoenix does not allow dogs on their trails, period, anytime? And you got to ask yourself, do you wonder why they changed this since 2016? Do you know when temperatures reach 105 degrees in both Phoenix and Scottsdale, those cities close their trails down completely now? Do you wonder where those hikers, those people go with these Phoenix Scottsdale trails shut down? Did you know the town of Cave Creek pays for all rescues? Did you know that every time our first responders have to do a rescue, it puts them at risk? Right? Did you know that the Arizona Humane Society has officially warned dog owners in Arizona to keep their dogs safe when it goes over 90 degrees by only hiking and walking them in the early mornings or evenings? Would you agree that the Arizona Humane Society has complete credibility when it comes to this topic? I'm very passionate about dogs, and because dogs cannot speak for themselves, for example, like a young child can, that's important as concerned citizens that we look out for them. Again, since they cannot tell you if they are hot or not, remember these loyal creatures will follow you no matter what. If you have a dog, you know that, by the way. So even if they're burning their feet and or overheating, they'll go till they drop. Do you realize this? Therefore, I am proposing that we discuss and pass on to staff a proposal for an ordinance regarding the trail on Black Mountain that simply states from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., if the temperatures are 90 degrees or hotter, that you cannot take your dog hiking on Black Mountain Trail. Questions?
Questions for Joe?
Yeah, I have one. How are you going to enforce it, Joe? We don't have we don't have police or anybody else like that in the town of Cave Creek, and I don't think the sheriff's office will do it. So how do we enforce it?
Dusty, we would handle this enforcement just like we handle all of our ordinances through a complaint-driven system. And I'd like to comment on that real quickly as well. The fact that you've got parks and things like that they have ordinances say for alcohol. Don't bring alcohol into our park. That's going on citywide. And most people will pay attention to an ordinance when they read it. But, you know, who's going to enforce that as well? who's going to enforce all of our ordinances? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that aren't compliant with dark skies right now. So yes, it would be enforced just like all our ordinances are enforced.
Um,
Go ahead.
Joe, other than me who had a heart attack up there in 2009, are you aware of specific cases in which people or animals have been clearly distressed by the conditions on the mountain?
Councilmember McGuire, I am aware of those things that have happened, but I'm not talking about dogs specifically here. I know people have been rescued off the mountain and had distress before, but you know, we can prevent bad behavior, but we can't, you know, discourage it. But we can discourage it, excuse me. That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Tom, do I see you?
Yes, sir. I just had a quick question. Black Mountain Trail, but what about Spur Cross Trail? Would that be covered by this?
It would not be. I wish it would be. The Spur Cross Trail is a partnership between us and the Maricopa County. And there's no way they're gonna, you know, do that. So this is kind of the starting point. And the top of Black Mountain is owned partly by Maricopa County, but they do not enforce anything, and it's us. As well, the Cave Creek Regional Park, I found out recently, we don't even own it. I thought we did. It's just there, and you know, we can't do anything about that. That's up to Maricopa County, and I have stood before them before on this topic.
As a follow-up, the top of Black Mountain is Maricopa County, right?
Correct.
What ordinances do they have on county parks? Because that would apply to Spur Cross as well, since they're 1/3 county, that the town should emulate or join or.
You know, as far as I know, they have nothing to do with Black Mountain. They, as far as Spur Cross, yeah, they're 1/3 in the state and us.
Well, the land at the top of Black
yeah,
Mountain is county.
it's a county park.
It is county, but you don't have to enter Black Mountain Trail through Maricopa County. The only sign currently there right now, there were more signs. There's one sign there that basically has something to do with you know, hiking, and that's it. There's no warning signs. There were sandwich boards out there, but they're gone. I have no idea why, but yeah, I mean, we kind of enforce the rules going up and down Black Mountain. If this works, if it's which it is a good idea, where, you know, a lot of people don't get it. They've just moved here and all that, or, you know, they'll take their dog up there. I ran into a lady when it was 100 degrees and I asked her if she had enough water, and she got really offended by it, you know, and I said, well, you know, it is pretty hot for these dogs, and she didn't get it. And that's the problem. It's not 1986 Cave Creek. It's now. There was 1.5 million people here. Now there's 6 million people. And when they close those parks in these other two neighboring towns, it's not hard to get up here anymore. And like we were saying earlier, we're trying to popularize this town with money through tourism, et cetera. People are going to come. This is a proactive move on my part.
So I guess I just have one more follow-up.
Go ahead.
So your proposal would only pertain to the trail from the base up to the peak and not to any other places in Cave Creek?
That's correct, because right now that would be the only place I could do this. Again, if I could, I would, but I think this would be a good start. It'd be an encouraging start.
Did you get a legal opinion on this? I'm just curious. You say that's all you can do.
Um,
What's that based on?
I did not get a legal opinion, but I've been told that you can do this on this mountain only. And again, keep in mind, there's reasons why these other towns have been doing this.
Anyone else? Okay, public comment?
David Phelps.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. David Phelps. Joe, thank you very much for having the courage to bring this forward. We have been known as a town not too kind to people that would want to manage or regulate our trails, and you've had the courage to do so. So as a freshman legislator, thank you. I think it shows a good leadership effort on your part, and I support this. I think it is the place to start, And I think we should be working on the county. And I know that the county wants to look at our relationship at Spurcross. And I think this should be a topic that is absolutely part of the equation. That if we're working with you, we got to protect our safety people. And certainly we got to protect those without a voice. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, other comments?
Discussion?
Yeah, well, excuse me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of it. Lena,
No additional.
okay. So at this point, we're ready for a motion.
I'll
Joe?
make a motion.
Yep.
Where's my thing there? Hold it out here. Okay. I'd like to make a motion from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. if the temperatures are 90 degrees or hotter, that you cannot take your dog hiking on the Black Mountain Trail.
I'll second it.
Okay, Joe, you've already,
I've already talked about it. There's so many reasons I don't want to bore you guys, but it's common sense, guys. I mean, this is not any kind of earth-shattering thing. It's not going to cost anybody anything. To put the sign up, to do the ordinance is free. To put the sign up is pennies on the dollar. And again, it will encourage people to not take their dogs up. Sure, there'll always be somebody that breaks the rules, but that's life.
I talked with Kevin Smith today and invited him. He's the supervisor of the Maricopa County Parks. They own approximately the top half of the trail. So if you're climbing Black Mountain, which I've done many times, the first part of the Black Mountain is in the town, and then the top is a county. The county has no regulations with regard to the use of the trails, but I think it's important to protect the dogs. I think you pointed out some important issues. I wonder if this should be a sign that's put there. I don't see making it an ordinance, and I think if we had an ordinance, it just wouldn't be enforced. But I certainly want to see people told and warned that this is a problem.
other comments? Yeah.
Well, I definitely agree with what Tom McGuire has just said. And I don't understand, I really don't understand why you would target Black Mountain only when the climbing terrain at Spurcross Ranch with a lot of people with dogs would be ignored or not included. And I don't want to impede what you're attempting to do this evening. Is there any wisdom in having the staff bring this back in 2 weeks with any type of review to see if it should apply to other places? I mean, I think the intent that you're trying to discuss is generally supported, but it seems purely symbolic to do Black Mountain, and we have grade changes as much at the Spurcross Ranch property within the town. And if we can't get the county's support for that, then we probably should do an inquiry as to why not, or what the relationship is between us providing 24-hour access to Black Mountain. You know, just a thought, Joe.
No, and if you don't mind, I want to answer that. I did go out, it was probably at least 6-7 months ago. I went out to Estrella Park to where Maricopa County had their meeting with Jen Waller, who's in charge of all this, who answers to Brophy McGee. And I waited my turn to speak to the public, and I got browbeat, man. And I didn't get it because it's like, what world are you living in? You know, other people are progressive, you know, they were not progressive. And since they control a third of that, I just said, you know what, this isn't going to happen right now. I didn't know about the regional park. Again, that's completely their jurisdiction. We'd have to approach them about that, and that'd be up to them. But Black Mountain is a starting point, like David Phelps said. It's a starting point, and we got to start somewhere. And that's the mountain most locals go up, and they all go up in the morning before it gets hot anyway. It's the people who don't live in town that take their dogs up when it's baking hot.
Well, at the point of being obnoxious, let me just try it one more time. Cave Creek Regional Park is within the town limits.
True.
So what do we do with individuals who show up out there not in compliance with this one site?
We don't own that. We don't own Cave Creek Regional Park.
Well, it's within the town limits, and if the
It's
town has an
true.
ordinance.
Well, no, it's
That's why I
completely,
asked if we had a
it's,
legal opinion.
Tom, it's completely governed by Maricopa County because it was purchased in the 60s before we incorporated or anything.
The only
That
thing I'm
land,
suggesting is that if you're gonna do an effort like this, it would theoretically apply within town borders.
oh, I agree. I agree. And that was my original intent. But again, through my efforts and going over there and everything, I realized that wasn't going to happen. And I got some good advice from several people and they said, go for Black Mountain. And I said, well, that is the locals mountain that the locals go up. And I go up there. This year I've been up Black Mountain over 100 times. I know everybody who hikes up there in the morning. I know the people with dogs. And I also know they're all off that mountain before 9 o'clock, probably before about 7:30. But it's the people from out of town, like the people that had the heat related incident that happened a couple months ago. I think it happened in September. And I asked the guys at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday, I said, is this a rescue? And they said, yes, it is. It's heat related. And the guy's from Indiana. I said, okay. Don't forget about the guy also over at Spur Cross that was rescued by one of our town employees, which is not in the agenda there, not in the record, so to speak. I mean, we've had people die as well out in Spur Cross, and I'm with you on that. If we can get one thing, then we can get another and another. You got to have a starting point. You can't go for the presidency first. You got to work your way up the ladder.
Just one
Mayor.
more question. I promise.
Yeah, I wanted to, and maybe staff wants to address this because we've approached, we've asked the county and they're not interested.
Right,
in
and I just wanted to dovetail on to Councilmember Oggerton. When Councilmember Friedman, I had encouraged him to actually go to the Parks Board of Maricopa County, and he spoke on a non-agenda item and brought this up. And when it was kind of shot down from what he told me, and I had an opportunity with the new director, Miss Waller, to talk about this and bring it up to her in a meeting with her. And she made it very clear that this was something that they had looked at years ago. And there was no interest on the part. If they would do it here, they'd have to do it countywide in their park system. And they have like one of the largest, if not the largest park system in the country. And so it seemed like it was an uphill battle. So I shared that information with Councilmember Friedman. And so he's looked at this, done a lot of research on his own, and looked at Black Mountain Trail as being the one possible area, at least to get a start on this. So, but we did try to go down the path that you suggest.
Joe, I promise I'll stop here. Joe, just a question to you. What about if the council this evening considered a request for funding for a signage, but not just at Black Mountain, but also to include Spur Cross recreational area? And then you'd have visibility at 2 locations and explore. If you can't do more with a townwide ordinance, explore maybe something further in the future. But if you want to get marketing visibility up before the next heat season, with signage be an interim accomplishment before you draft townwide policy, I guess, especially if we're not going to get the cooperation of the county on lands jointly shared.
We will
Those are
get,
the suggestions.
we will get the cooperation in time, especially if this goes through. And again, I agree with you about Spur Cross, but I realize right now, the one thing I'm going to say though, is if you haven't noticed, and it doesn't have anything to do with climate change or anything else, I don't care what you believe or don't believe, it's getting hotter here every summer. Every summer, it's getting hotter. We need to be proactive, and you have to start somewhere. If you can't get the whole ball of wax, at least start biting into it. Yes.
Well,
Cynthia, let's just head this way. Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
You're next.
I think it's always good to have a discussion about safety and also resident and visitor education, which to me is what this topic is. There's certainly potential for a plethora of personal behaviors that you might want to impact, but I think it would be wrong to pursue an ordinance. Feedback I've had from residents and visitors, they don't want to be over-regulated on their personal decisions when they hike, when they ride their horse, when they walk their dog. So I would not want to go down the path of trying to draft ordinances that direct people's personal behaviors when they judge them to be safe. You know, that's their personal freedom. And some people are risk takers and others are not. But in Cave Creek, I think we have the opportunity to provide safety and education, and we can do that through existing resources and through the visitor center and in cooperation with other jurisdictions, a wider audience. But I do not see this at all as ordinance material.
Why do you think that Phoenix and Scottsdale did it then?
They have different perspectives. I'm talking about a Cave Creek perspective.
No, I'm just asking that because it was, you know, those are pretty big areas. And again, when they close their trails, they're all coming here. And I hear what you're saying about too many rules and stuff. I'm definitely more of a libertarian myself, but at the same time, I'm talking from 9 to 7. You could still hike in the morning and the evening, and we can avoid rescues and things like that. And again, when you tell people there's no ordinance or no rule, then they go up there a lot. It's kind of like having booze at the trail, you know. We have an ordinance, I'm sure, that covers alcohol. It's probably not written, you can't take alcohol in these parks, I'm sure of that. But people probably do it anyway, you know, they stash it or whatever. And I'm just saying, we need to be proactive going forward because I keep hearing about growth here and growth here. We get past this water issue, we're gonna have a lot of people in this town. I mean, I know you moved here when you were part of the incorporation committee in 86, but like I said before, we're not in 86 anymore. This isn't a sleepy town that's hard to get to. There's people are coming here like crazy. And I see these people on the trails personally up there and they're lost. And I go, how you get lost? And they go, oh yeah. I go, are you from out of town? Yeah, okay, you know. So I get that. And I'm just waiting for something to happen, unfortunately. And you know, if more dogs were dying on that mountain like they were on Camelback Mountain, you probably would want to do an ordinance. And again, the ordinance cannot be enforced like you have a guard there or something. It's the honor system. It's all about the honor system. That's all I got to say.
Tom?
Yeah, having hiked Black Mountain for many years, it is a difficult trail. Tom, it's clearly different than any of the trails. I've hiked all of Spur Cross and probably all the trails in town. Black Mountain is really tough. It is a special case. There are times when the town ordinances are not the same as those within the county parks. And one that comes to mind has to do with the leash law. And it's my understanding that dogs don't have to be on a leash within Cave Creek. And I've asked why. And they say, well, if you go on your horse and you want to have the dog go along with you, which is a tradition in Cave Creek, then you know, you can't have a leash dog. So, but in the county, the rules are different. And again, I would suggest that this become a matter of a sign warning people, informing people, because I think people should be aware of the issue.
By the way, there is a leash law in Cave Creek, just so you know. I mean, Marshall Stein was here, he'd let you know too.
Well, nobody follows it.
You have to have control of your animal. If you have control,
yeah.
there is no leash.
That's my understanding.
I realize that Joe's heart is in the right place and his intentions are all good. I'm very skeptical of an ordinance that can't be enforced. We have too many of those and we lose credibility because of that. So I'm also in favor of public education, of a sign at the trailhead that recommends what you're suggesting, Joe, as other cities and towns have. We're certainly not the only municipality that has signage at their trails. So that's what I would recommend. I think that that might be the best compromise for now, until perhaps in the future we do have at least a part-time enforcement officer. But we don't have any now. And I would hate to see us implement a rule that just will not be applied. So let's work on education. And that would be, I think, the very best first step.
I think signs are a no-brainer. We asked for signs up at Spur Cross after we had the 2 fatalities in 2020. And there's a sign there, but the print is about that big and it's huge. It's completely, totally ineffective. Phoenix, I've seen Phoenix's signs on their trails and they are wonderful. They actually communicate what's going on and warn people. And I think that signs at all of our parks where we tend to have more people from out of town who don't understand the danger of hiking in the heat. I think signs are a no-brainer for all of them. I wouldn't take my dogs on Black Mountain. And we have to think, if the dog gets in trouble there, how does the dog get down? Where they're going to call the fire department. So I think I'm going to support Joe on this, but I understand others. And this is only to direct staff. So staff will have an opportunity to weigh in on this during the investigation period. So any other last comments? Okay, seeing none, the motion, refresh us on the motion, Joe.
From 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., if the temperatures are 90 degrees or hotter, that you cannot take your dog hiking on Black Mountain Trail. Did you, by the way, Brian, did we put up the, okay, yeah, there was a meme up there that lets you know that when it's 90 degrees out on those rocks and your dog's walking, it's 150 degrees on their paws, so.
Okay, so all those in favor?
The motion as it's stated in the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I can
let's-
support.
So I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, and that we have the town staff look into it rather than it being directive to the town staff, have them come back to us in 2 or 4 weeks and give us either put the signs out or put the or recommend an ordinance. But I think at this point, it needs to go to the staff to see what they can do that's enforceable.
I can live with that.
Okay, you want to amend your motion in?
I think how I'm going to say this now. He just did. Yeah, I second Dusty.
Do you understand the motion? Yeah, okay. So we have the motion that Joe made as amended by Dusty, and so we're now ready for a vote. All those in favor of that? Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Algerton,
Huh. Huh. I'll be a no as well, because we don't have legal review, and signage was something that I thought we had staff look at. So for now, I'll join it.
Councilmember Driscoll,
No.
Councilmember Friedman,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire.
Yeah, I want to note that the way it's stated on the agenda is for discussion with staff for possible action, but there aren't specifics there. So I will support the motion the way it's stated on the agenda.
You can't. It's the motion that,
Oh, okay.
the only motion you have is the one that's Joe made. It's,
Okay, Joe, does your motion include specifics about?
Well,
the
my
temperature?
motion was amended by Dusty, and I second what Dusty said. Basically, it's going to staff and they're going to look up the legalities, et cetera.
Okay.
Right.
You know, so
If I may, council, mayor and council, so in the suggested motion of the staff report, there were 3 suggested motions in either or kind of a situation. I believe that Councilmember Rhodes came up with move to direct staff to address this matter with other alternatives proposed by council. So we heard some ideas tonight about possible ordinance and also signage. So we will come back in a period of time and have the council take a final action on what they wish to do. And we'll have some signage samples for you to consider. And also if you want to reconsider the ordinance at that time. Does that sound clear?
Is that what
So-
you suggested, Dusty?
Yes, that's good.
okay, well, we started a roll call here.
Okay,
So,
and I support that.
so we haven't,
Yeah.
we had the 2 nays. Are your nays, do your nays stand?
No, I'll switch to aye, if in fact that's what the manager has just described as the methodology. Yeah,
Okay.
I support that.
Okay, so we have 2 ayes, 1 nay. You were a,
Aye, yes.
okay.
Councilmember Rhodes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Royer,
Yes.
and Mayor Morris.
Yes, so motion carries 6-1. Okay, so that, all that is a direction to staff to bring stuff back. It is not approving that. So we'll have another crack at this at another meeting. Okay, next on the agenda is a presentation of fiscal year 2026 first quarter finance report.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have our first quarter report from finance. And so we'll talk about projects that we've completed that are in process and future projects that aren't started just yet. We'll go over the financial status of the town, the investment report, and performance measures. So first off, starting with projects that are completed, and we're not going to go through all of these. We're just going to point out some highlights on some of them. But the second one there, so we did get some software that would help us manage the debt. And so there's different types of debt. So there's like WIFA loans that we've talked about, and bonds, and the excise tax obligations that we talked about, but also considered to be debt is leases and software subscriptions, the liabilities for those. And the leases and the subscriptions get very complicated. This software like basically helps you walk through the decision tree on what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. So it was very, very helpful in the audit that we are very close to having completed for the quarter with all of that. And it manages everything. It tracks your contracts and all of that. And I would turn it over to Bridget to talk about a couple other ones here.
So in July, we fully transitioned meter reads to Neptune, which we had 40 to 50 rereads every month, and now it's down to 4 or 5. Next is banking services. We implemented the merchant service gateway for SmartGov and payment portal. And SmartGov is the software we use for permitting. And as it relates to banking services, we also implemented check scanners on the desktop so they can remotely scan checks in and deposit them instead of taking them to the bank. For Wells Fargo, and then we do our deposits, wires, vendor, ACH debits, and short-term rentals through Wells Fargo now. We're transitioning away from BMO.
We also did an administrative financial policy related to accepting credit cards as payments. So we have set a cap at 25,000 or more. We would not accept credit card. When you get to those types of levels, the fees that get charged, the merchant fees that we would pay get pretty substantial. And we didn't feel that that was a wise use of taxpayer money for somebody to pay with credit card in those types of situations. Generally, it's going to be some of the really significant large items with development services.
$25,000 credit card fee? Is I heard that right?
25,000. We would not accept credit card as a payment for an amount of 25,000 or more. So it's not,
It sounds very generous. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, sometimes people want to do that, and then the fees end up being very significant when you reach those types of levels, and they're probably wanting to get points on their card and stuff. But we would be incurring large fees, so that's why we put the cap. Some of the projects that we have in process, so we're just going to talk about a few of these.
So in process, we are doing the SmartGov manually, and eventually we'd like to get that over where it's integrated and fully going to Cassell from Wells Fargo. For banking services, we're doing Positive Pay, ACH, P cards, e-bill, and automation processes. Those are still in process. We're working on them.
We had at the last meeting, we talked about the utility rates. We also have the user fees related to the utilities, things like the fee for setting up a new account and such. So now that we're getting kind of on the wind down a little bit with utility rates, there's still more to do, communications and things like that. But we need to get going on the user fee side of that as well.
And for staff cross-training, we're cross-training for accounts payable and payroll. That's still in process as their payroll is a little bit more difficult than accounts payable.
We have done some implementation with the budget software ClearGov, but with all the things that are on our plates, with all the various projects, we have not gotten very far with that. We don't want to get fully burdened down with dealing with a software implementation in the midst of also trying to run a budget process. So we will likely be having departments use spreadsheets for this year for providing their information. And then I want to have spreadsheets set up in a manner where they can be uploaded into ClearGov once that's ready to go.
ClearGov, SmartGov, are there any more govs out there?
Well, we left OpenGov. Yes, everything is something gov. Also on the list, so we got a long range forecast software model. It's very, very inexpensive. And so we're working on getting the information to the company that will take our data and upload everything, get everything all set up in it for us in the model. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting on our behalf, and it's something that is very important and critical for what we use on the financial side in the development of the budget process. So it's on our list of high priorities.
And over the past few months, we've had bank fraud with BMO, and they're still working to resolve it and give us a resolution to that.
There's a lot of manual process going on because of that.
Yes.
Yeah, how significant is that? I mean, when you say that, my antenna vibrate.
The amount of the fraud or the significance of the work that it's put on us?
The amount of the fraud,
It's about 15,000.
About 15,000.
Specific to Cave Creek.
Somebody, so they would have had to have been somebody who received a check from Cave Creek from our BMO account to get our information, and they decided to print their own checks.
Right. Yeah.
Creative people. Wow.
Sherry, who's working on this? Our sheriff's department or I mean, to find this person?
We did report it. I actually haven't gotten a follow-up from the sheriff's office yet.
Okay.
Sometimes these things don't rise to the level where they act on it all that quickly, but the BMO's doing their own investigation as well.
So in process projects, we're doing financial policies. One of them is the payment card industry compliance, which is PCI compliance. That protects your data, legal and financial consequences come from that, and customer trust. So we need to ensure that all companies are following the PCI compliance.
This is related to accepting credit cards as
cards.
payments. So that's something that the requirement has been in place since chip cards came around, but there is no policy at this point in time that needs to be dealt with. Some of these things on you've seen on the list in the past quarterly reports for future projects. You will also notice that the list is growing of projects that are being added to it. I did want to point out on this particular slide, so we have had on here evaluating PBA. This is one of the things that we said it's going to have to be a little bit later in the future. I know we've been relying on home rule, and that was something that we do at some point want to investigate, but with our workload right now, it's not happening for 2026. And it would be an even year. On this slide, so one of the things we have is about evaluating a lifeline program for utilities. So I know we created a tier, the 0 to 4,000, but another thing that a lot of municipalities have and utilities have is a program where people can help assist people in paying their bills. But typically you want to set up a charitable organization in order to do that and not have that go through the town. And so there would be a lot of work involved in that, but it is on our radar of something that we would like to look at in the future.
And we'd also like to evaluate pool vehicles versus mileage reimbursements. Currently, there's no consistent policy for pool vehicles versus personal need to use your own vehicle. Mileage reimbursements are currently at 70 cents per mile, and it's predicted to increase in 2026.
And this is one of the things that we're looking at once we get the procurement administrator position that would help assist with this. Also, we have been using the same collection agency, I guess, for quite some time with not a lot of results. So we would really like to look at that. And so that's also on the list for when we have procurement position. And then also on the list that we really started during the second quarter. So as of the first quarter, it was a future project of the debt financing options for Harquahela. I also added to our list for future projects that we talked during the discussions with the rate study that it was really only an update, and we really need to be looking at soon after this one gets put to bed of doing a full-blown rate study, and not just rate study, but looking at capacity fees as well. So I added that to the list.
And last, I believe, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act signed into law on July 4th, 2025, introduced significant changes. One of those would be overtime reporting. And so that'll be a future project that we'll coordinate with CASEL, our ERP program.
And I think that's going to involve a fair amount of work in changing the way it's set up.
But everybody know what she's talking about, because I don't have, this is asking a dumb question.
So what they said is that when you pay overtime, so typically overtime would be that you get time and a half for the hours that are worked over 40 during the week, that you would not be taxed on the overtime for the halftime portion. You would get taxed on the straight time for those hours, but that additional halftime that you don't have to pay taxes. I don't think so. There wasn't. So it's only on the half. There are certain situations, and it's very common with municipalities of certain situations where you get paid double overtime, but this tax amount that you don't get charged is only on the halftime. It's not related to any of those. So it's going to have to take some effort of trying to figure out all those various situations and set up formulas and stuff to make that work. So our list keeps growing with, not necessarily even things that we came up with, but at the federal level. So any questions or anything or thoughts on any of the projects before we move on to the financial status? Okay.
None.
So starting here with the TPT revenues based off by fund, and this is looking at by cash basis. So we had budgeted TPT revenues across the funds of 14.6 million. First quarter, it's 2.1 million or 14% of the budget. The way all of this works is you don't really get like the full amount. when someone is making their payments for the month of July, they have to pay them by the end of August. So what you're getting in August is really for July. And then by the time we get the money from the state, we're getting some of it even into September of July amounts. So there's a lot of lag and delay here. So we did simplify how we are doing these with the changes in the way the TPT revenues are being allocated. We came up with a spreadsheet where we could just dump in a download and have it just spit out for the month what those are. So we're doing this on a monthly basis, but it is kind of delayed. So for fiscal year 26, we're looking at 100% of July and August revenue. Fiscal year 25, the old way of how it was being done was each time we were getting money, regardless of what month it was for, it was cash basis being entered in for every distribution every single week. And that was a lot of work involved in doing those allocations. So fiscal year 25 included up to about 90% of the August taxes. When we're looking at 2 months of the year, that's about 17%. One of the things to notify here is that residential rental tax ended in December of 24, so halfway through last year. So there are residential rental tax monies in last year, and but we are it's kind of not exactly apples to apples, but 8% ahead. But then my next slide, I take the information that we get through the IGA that we have with City of Phoenix, where they take the data and give you ways to pull information differently. And so this is looking at, from an accrual basis, what the July, August, and September amounts are between the 2 quarters based off of the different categories. So for the current fiscal year, 3.1 million compared to last year of 3.2. So a decrease of about 125,000 or 4%. If you exclude construction, which construction went down some, and construction is one of those things where it fluctuates, it's not going to necessarily be consistent, and you take out the residential rental in last fiscal year, it would have been a decrease of only about $4,000 or less than 1%. So relatively flat. This is looking at some of the history going back a few years. So in the left side of the screen, July, August, and September, that kind of purplish column there is the New Year's amounts being added on in comparison. So a little bit down in those months, but again, some of it is going to be because of those residential rentals. Looking at revenues, so what we budgeted for revenues for fiscal year 26 was about 38 million. The first quarter revenues, not quite 6.8 or 18% of the budget, compared to previous year 6.7, so 1% increase over. I have comments there on some of the changes. So for general fund, down 2%, but that has to do with the changes in the allocations. And if we adjust for those changes in the allocations of where the monies went, then it would have actually been a 4% decrease, but that is because there was some one-time revenue in the first quarter last year related to the Skybox that we got 200,000 of a one-time payment. For the capital projects, so in the fiscal year 26 budget, we created the capital improvements fund and said that we were putting 50% of the construction TPT money into that fund. So that's why you see the significant increase there with that change in the TPT allocation. Wastewater, we said that we were not going to allocate directly to wastewater anymore. So if it had not been for that, then it wouldn't have been a 36% decrease, but actually a 22% increase, which is related to some capacity fees that were received in the first quarter. Capacity fees are not received on a consistent basis. They tend to be somewhat random as far as how they occur during the year. Cave Creek water and Desert Hills water, you see a little bit of a decrease compared to first quarter last year, 2% in Cave Creek, 5% in Desert Hills. That is really related to what we charge for water usage and the way the cycles work. And it's a big effort each year of doing the calendar to identify when the cycles would begin and end, and making sure that at the time when we would be doing any disconnects, that we don't want to disconnect somebody just before the weekend and then have them be upset that they're without water all weekend. Like, we take all sorts of things into consideration in that schedule. There was 5 days less in the first quarter for this year that were billed for water usage compared to last year, and 5 days equates to 5% difference. So that's really where that's coming into play. Looking at first quarter expenditures based off a category, operating versus capital. We have there the budget amount and the first quarter expenditures. So operating is at about 17% of the budget in the first quarter. Capital is about 5%, overall 11%, compared to last fiscal year. So 31% increase over last year for first quarter. Part of that is because we are incurring now costs for the Station 144 that were not there previously. And then also just timing difference of when the quarterly payments were made to Daisy Mountain. So if you adjust for those, it would have been a 3% increase. And capital showing a 40% decrease there. And a big part of what was going on in the first quarter was last year was the fire station and the vehicles that we got, the tender truck. Looking by fund, here you can see a comparison of where we're at on the expenditures compared to the budget in total and compared to last year. Some of the ones there, the wastewater. This includes both operating and capital, so we're 34% ahead of last year. A big part of that was related to expenses for the water ranch, and then the timing of when insurance premiums were paid. Cave Creek Water, see a 20% decrease. Part of what was going on in first quarter last year. A lot of capital related to the Phoenix Interconnect, the water meter replacement program, and the purchase of a vacuum trailer. Desert Hills Water sees a 10% increase over the first quarter, and some of that's related to increase in the amounts for the bulk water purchase, timing of the insurance premiums, and some of those indirect costs that we added. I will say that first quarter reports are always kind of difficult when you're looking at all this stuff because it's such a short period of time, and timing differences when you're dealing with cash basis numbers. You always have these timing things that really aren't even all that significant, but they seem significant when you're looking at a smaller dollar amount for just one quarter worth of time. The other thing too is that all of this took quite a bit of effort in getting all this put together because we made so many changes in the accounting structure and account numbers and all these things during the process. And when you do that, and we sent out all the list to the different departments, here are your account numbers that are changing and all of these various things that we did. But you still end up with people forgetting and using old account numbers and stuff. So there was a lot of effort just trying to get to a point of being able to get this information. Looking from a fund balance summary perspective, so the July 1 beginning balance, so it is an audit at this point. We're getting pretty close. I think these numbers are probably pretty close to what they're going to be in the audit. So starting off in total with 36.7 million. Revenues for the first quarter, 6.7, expenditures, 8 million. And one of the things that we have implemented, because waiting until the end of the year to do the transfers is has the numbers be kind of skewed, especially when we're trying to do interest allocations, but to even get an understanding of where we really truly at in the funds. So so we started doing those for the quarterlies, and the September balance, ending balance is at 35 point, almost 0.2 million for the quarter. So looking at the CIP projects and some of the more significant ones here. So Phoenix Interconnect had an adopted budget of not quite 8.7 million. First quarter expenditures, not quite 1.2. So it is in progress. The cost to date is about 13.8 million. The water treatment plant upgrades and improvements budget 700,000. First quarter spent not quite 41,000. There's a concept report in process and total project cost to date 187,000. The well rehab at 1.4 million. There's an evaluation process. Not much has been spent for the quarter so far. Same with the pressure zone 9 booster. The steel storage tank reconditioning. So the construction is being delayed and deferred to fiscal year 27. That it was actually in the first quarter budget transfers that you approved on the consent agenda. And for the town hall remodel and addition, so the amount there represents the land acquisition of the property behind town hall. One of the things that we had talked about is that we have gone through multiple times looking at the utility CIP projects and assessing what can be moved. So this was done during the budget process, continued after the budget process. We did some updates for the rate study, continued to look at it. So even when we were working on the debt financing, there was still a little bit of changes there. This encapsulates where we're at right now. So the first part shows what was in the budget that we did during the budget process for wastewater, Cave Creek Water, Desert Hills. And then the next section shows projects that were being deferred, so amounts being moved out of 26 and even out of some of the later years, pushed into some of the years that you see in the 5-year plan, but also even beyond. And then you go into the section where some things got advanced forward. So like with the Harquahela, it was budgeted for fiscal year 27 at 4 million. And as you know, it ended up being more costly because it was just a WAG, I believe, at that point in time that got moved into fiscal year 26. So you can see the updated totals in the 5-year plan for each one of those utilities. As far as the outstanding debt, we make principal payments on the WIFA loans and the excise tax obligations July 1 each year. So compared to what was presented in the last report, there really isn't any change here because I had shown that as of that payment being made of the July 1 that we accrue to the previous year. But on the right-hand side, I did add, now that we have the software, we can better track the leases and the subscriptions and stuff. So I added those there, what those amounts are. We did make the last payment on the CAP water agreement for September 30. So that is now paid off. And then, so this really didn't change from the last report as far as what the outstanding future debt payments are. And here we're showing the lease and subscription future amounts. For the investment report, so these are the investments that we held as of September 25 with the state's local government investment pool, our sweep with the Wells Fargo, and the analyzed checking accounts that we have. So still continuing a little bit with BMO until we get everything all transitioned over to Wells Fargo, and the very small amount is related to Wells Fargo that the sometimes timing differences in what the sweep amounts are. For the portfolio, so the yield is just under 4%. The rate of return is about 3.86, which is our benchmark that we compare to, with the U.S. Treasury at 3.61. So we are above what the benchmark is. In looking at those balances, so I put this so that it's based off of fiscal year basis from July to June, comparing last year to this year, and you'll see that the bars are quite a bit lower right now. We did talk at the last report how we're waiting on a reimbursement from WIFA of about $6.4 million that we're waiting on them to finish. They have now said that they want to do an on-site visit before they will give us our money. So Sean is working on getting something scheduled with them for that visit. And then here's looking at the comparison over time with the rate of returns and the spreads between the rate of return for the town's portfolio compared to the 3-year Treasury benchmark. So we've been doing pretty good there. And then as far as the transactions for the quarter, we did some withdrawals out of the LGIP, and it was a net reduction in the sweep and the checking accounts, but we had some investment earnings. So the net transactions for the first quarter, you're typically going to see it this way, a reduction of 5.5 million. We have, as I said, our July 1 big payments that we make on our WIFA loans and our excise tax obligations. So that was a total of 4.6 million, as well as some capital improvement costs in there that brought that down. In looking at the performance measures, so the first one, closing the GL within 10 business days, and you'll see that quite different from past reports where we've had sometimes where Bridget has been so on top of it, she gets it closed within 2-3 days. These are quite longer. We have, as I had mentioned in the last report, we have had so much going on with projects, and it's consuming a lot of our time. We have an accountant that we hired a few months ago that is in training and takes up a lot of time with training and getting her up to speed. We also were dealing with audit prep, and as I mentioned, it was just a big effort even trying to get this report put together for you because of all the changes that were made in the structure and everything. So so we've got a lot going on. Which you can see based off of how long it's taken for us to get that. We did just get notice that we have received the award again for the previous ACFR for fiscal year 24. We did find out a few months ago that we got the fiscal year 25 budget award. The AP invoices, so again, we're still having a little bit, we're not quite at 100% of getting those paid within 30 days. We still have some invoices not coming to finance first, and so we're not aware of them sometimes. And then we stayed consistent on the utility accounts over 60 days at 5%, which is a very small percentage there. And kind of talked about the investment return previously. So any questions on anything?
Wow.
I think you explained everything.
We tried to.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else, any other issues to bring up with that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't, having been doing this for a number of years, we didn't used to see all this detail. There's a lot more going on than I knew. So good job. Thank you very much. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like it's important that you have a sense of what all is going on and what we're doing, you know, so.
They were actually overwhelmed.
So are we.
So kudos to you both.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Thank you. Yeah.
One other person?
So the accountant, and then we have the positions. So we had, because of the reorganization, everything, we reclassified them to accounting specialist and accounting specialist lead. So, because they're doing more than just utility billing.
Okay, is there anything else, any other business that's